I made 5 mistakes when I was filling my metal raised garden beds, and in this video I'm going to share those with you so you don't have to make those mistakes yourself. Hi everyone, I'm Michelle and welcome back to my meadow. In December of 2021 we purchased both a birdies raised garden bed and a vego raised garden bed, but I wanted the taller ones, the 30 and the 32 inch, so that I could compare them but also have some comfort while gardening. I don't have to crawl on the ground. I can easily pull the weeds. I can easily plant and tend and water and all those things, and I love it. But it turns out that when we were filling up the beds, I made a few mistakes, and I didn't discover that until someone asked, "Are your beds caving in just like Mark from Self-Sufficient Me?" And I went, "I don't know, let's take a look." And they were. But that is not a fault of either the raised metal garden bed or of vego or of birdies. It has 100% to do with how I filled the bed. And be sure to watch all the way to the end, because I think number 5 is going to surprise you. And of course, if you have any tips, comments, questions, or suggestions, please throw them in the comments below. We want to help our community here because I love gardening in these tall raised bed gardens. It makes my life so much easier, and I want to make sure that you enjoy it too. If you're not familiar with the hugelkultur method, the idea is that you use logs and debris and decaying things, and you build a mound, you cover it with soil, and you plant in it. And out in the wild, it works beautifully. But when you try that method inside a metal garden bed, you do need to follow some rules. So as that all composts and decays down, you don't hurt your bed. And the reason people use this hugelkultur method to fill their beds is to save money on soil. For most vegetable plants, you only need anywhere from 8 to 12 inches, maybe 14 inches of soil in order to do your growing. But the bed's 30 inches deep or 32 inches deep, so you're looking to add anywhere from 18 to 20 inches of other things to fill in the bottom of the bed, so that you don't have to spend all of your money on soil. Number 1, no logs should be touching any of your support braces. In the case of mine, we actually had a log that was laying on a support brace, which was causing it to bend down, which then was causing the sides to pull in. Which takes us to number 2, long logs on the bottom only. These logs were long, and that's why they ended up laying across the support brace. I clearly remember telling the young man who was helping me it would be a-okay, but turns out it wasn't. So long logs only on the very bottom. Number 3, I would use more fill dirt. Between the logs, I was using a lot of leaves and mulch and old twigs and all kind of yard debris like that. But I would actually mix in more fill dirt the next time that I do it. A good fill dirt, it doesn't have to be organic soil necessarily or something you're planting in, because we're talking about down in the bottom layer, but something that really creates some weight. So as this all begins to decay, and we want it to decay, there's actually some soil there that would eventually transform with all of the activity that is happening in the decay. Number 4, I would do a much better job of stuffing everything in. I would make it as compacted as possible so that we have a really firm foundation for the great soil that's coming in next. Which brings me to number 5, and in some ways could be the most important part. I used a raised bed garden mix in my garden bed because it's a raised bed. That made sense to me. But I used the mix just as it was. I did not use any other additives in it like perlite. And what I discovered when I was digging it out is once I got past the first 5 or 6 inches or so, the soil was hard like a rock. In fact, it was caked around the support beam, the top support beam, so hard that I had to take a little trench shovel to break it up so I could pull it apart. And it was literally like having a brick wrapped around that support beam. So when I put the dirt back in this bed, I've already purchased some perlite so that I can make sure I've got a nice fluffy mix. In my mind, I think we have to treat this more like a giant container garden rather than a raised bed garden, because raised bed mixes are typically used in beds that are 12 to 6 inches tall. 6 to 12 inches tall. And so If it gets a little compacted right at the surface of the ground, it doesn't really matter. It's right on the ground. And you've got microbes coming up and worms coming up and working their way through. But here, really, once I got past that top layer, there was not a whole lot of visible soil life in that compacted area. And I'm guessing it just has to do with how much weight there was above it and below it that kept it from being able to separate. I truly believe that the perlite is going to make all the difference when I'm filling these beds in. So from now on, instead of thinking about these like raised garden beds, I'm going to think about them as giant containers so that I keep that mindset as I'm going forward. Well, my friends, that's it. I told you this would be a short video. There are more videos coming of the dig out and the things that I've been doing, but I wanted to make sure I shared this with you just as quickly as I could because so many people have already reached out and said, oh, we want to see that video. We're getting ready to fill our beds. So I hope that's really helpful for you. If you like this content, please give it a thumbs up. That's a mulberry thumb. And of course, you can subscribe to the channel to learn more about what we're doing here in our North Florida garden. Until next time, my friends, remember to wear that high quality sunscreen, drink plenty of water, and have a fantastic day. Now, Babyface, we need those pollinators. They need to help us. Oh, Babyface, I know you're my hunter, but we need those pollinators.